Okay, it actually was raining a bit a few hours ago, but it actually stopped now. So let's see if it actually stays put. What did I read today? A lot of interesting stuff actually. This one was really interesting in terms of things like information on the internet, because a lot of times people would say there's a lot of fake stuff where companies, for example, they're the one posting information just to try to control like a narrative and stuff like that. How about this one? It says, disclosing networks of state-linked information operations we've removed. So apparently Twitter removed tons of accounts which they say were owned by like the Chinese Communist Party. I don't think that comes as a surprise for many people, correct? And it says, our proactive removal of this network from Twitter is a direct result of the technical efforts we instituted after thoroughly studying and investigating past coordinated information operations from the PRC. So to be more clear, it's essentially like here, I guess, like government-controlled accounts where they'll publish a piece of news, and I suppose with all these other fake accounts, they make it seem like, hey, this is like popular, this is the thing that's actually true, and it makes people believe that. It says 23,750 accounts that compromise the core of the network, the highly engaged core network. And it says approximately 150,000 accounts that were designed to boost this content, the amplifiers. And it says here, in general, this entire network was involved in a range of manipulative and coordinated activities. They were pleading predominantly in Chinese languages and spreading geopolitical narratives favorable to the Communist Party of China, while continuing to push deceptive narratives about the political dynamics in Hong Kong. It makes me wonder personally, like with all this pandemic and COVID-19 stuff, where a lot of the data where this country is doing better than that country, etc., whether or not it's due to one, just inefficient reporting, because everyone has different types of tests, I guess, like results and the amount of people they actually test. Or at the same time, is it like in cases like this potentially where people are just controlling what information is getting out there because they want to look better? I guess in relation to things like the pandemic, still waiting for things to get back to normal for a lot of industries. So it's kind of interesting reading this one where I guess health officials are saying they might actually allow people to open up the motion film industry and all that. Although it's kind of interesting reading some of the precautions and procedures that they're saying people would have to actually do. It makes me wonder, how is this even going to work in the big picture? A lot of the productions here are from places like the US. So what would you have to do like for travelers, like with bands and stuff or whatever? And this one actually says here, travelers to BC from outside of Canada may not be permitted to enter the province. And if they do, they are required under order by the provincial health officer to self-isolate for 14 days. So I don't see how they would be able to continue productions like that in general, like for US-based productions where they have to bring people over usually. You can't say that that's essential service, can you? Like in terms of making a motion picture, like a film. And imagine this, when you're trying to find, I guess, right people like for the job. It says here, cast members of the same household in scenes where physical distancing cannot be maintained and where appropriate. Imagine that, where they bring in, I guess, two talent to do something, and whatever, they could be doing something like a fight scene or something like that, and because they can't avoid the distancing, they're like, okay, if you're gonna hire people that live in the same household if you can. Imagine that for any other industry, for example, like, I don't know, you're working at a restaurant or something like that, but now that you can't avoid being next to each other and all that, we're gonna have to try to hire everyone from the same household or building to work at that one restaurant. And stuff like this will pretty much just change like an entire, I guess, film or something like that, potentially. It says, scenes involving singing, loud yelling, or the use of wind instruments may increase the risk of transmission. Where possible, film these outdoors and or ensure adequate distancing between people. It will be interesting to see how this all is in actual practice. And during these times, a lot more people doing things like flying a drone, I guess, just for hobby, because there's nothing else for them to do. How about this one though, in terms of, I guess, someone getting a drone during this time and having it blow up? This one says, Blackbird man's terrifying warning after drone exploded in his home. Apparently it was gifted to him and it was actually working beforehand. It says, my daughter and her husband already owned the drone, which was compatible with an iPhone and had used it once or twice before the lockdown began. However, she then got a new phone, meaning the drone would no longer be any use for her. So she gifted it to me as she knew I'd always wanted one. I was looking forward to using it and decided to charge it on Sunday evening. It had been plugged into the wall around an hour when the family decided to go upstairs to bed. I told my wife I'd come back downstairs to unplug it once it had reached full power, but we didn't even get that far. And I guess as it turned out, during the charging, for some reason the battery exploded. It says, I ran into the kitchen and wet some towels to chuck over it, which quickly extinguished the flames. We then rang the fire service, who gave us advice on how to deal with the mess. Anybody ever used this drone before or seen it in advertising? Because it says afterwards he contacted the seller, like on Amazon. It's called the eHang Ghost Drone 2.0. And when he was talking to people, he realized afterwards saying, I've since had conversations with people about these devices and they told me how dangerous the batteries are that are used in some drones. Do you ever get concerned about things like your drone batteries, where they're made and whether or not they'll blow up in that case? I know with the DJI batteries, a lot of people say they inflate a lot, and often people would say it's your fault as a user, whereas some people are saying there's some manufacturer defect or something like that. The most I've seen personally are bloated up batteries, not ones that actually exploded into flames and all that.
I'm gonna get one. Okay. And get 2 pieces. We'll feed the duck. I wonder where Frank. Oh, I got 7 of them. Someone go feed Frank.
This squirrel has like a unique head tilting action going on. Those ones going up, huh? Alright, see you guys later.